Welcome to the Career Studio podcast, where we boil down the noise and focus on the core concepts essential for building an energizing career you love, one that is simply an extension of who you are and how you want to live your life. Anyone can do it. It's just a matter of knowing what to focus on. Hello, and welcome to another interview with a former client of mine. Part of what I want to do on this podcast is introduce you to everyday people who are thriving professionally and personally, to really show you that feeling energized, feeling aligned, this isn't just for celebrities or titans of industry that are often featured on other podcasts. Really, this is available to every single one of us, including you. Today, I'm talking to Damien Neva. Damien is a video artist who has been producing short-form serial videos for more than a decade for modeling agencies in New York, including his current shop of 9 years, Next Management, where he's the global director of social media. Although he never studied photography or filmmaking, his undergrad in English Lit and a master's in humanities and social thought have served him in good stead in the telling of stories. He lives in Brooklyn with his wife, an architect, and their 2 children. Damien and I had a great conversation where we talked about the value of having lots and lots of conversations, even before you know really what you want to do. How Damien turned his existing environment into exactly what he needed to progress his career. The importance of trusting your body and listening to its signals. How owning who you are and what excites you draws people to you, and lots more. I really had fun talking to Damien, so let's dive in. I think I'd love to start just talking a little bit about how you were feeling professionally before we started working together. You know, how were you feeling and what was going on?
Yeah, to, situate where I was in the world. I mean, we were, a year into the pandemic, and I was looking for direction. A lot of the things that I really liked to do, making videos, working with, talent, the models and musicians and artists that Next represents, I didn't have access to that. And not being able to do what I really loved made me feel at sea. Was it a question of finding a new job? I looked at, who I am for the agency. I'm a director of social media. Okay, is that something I'd want to do for other companies? So I dove into listings and saw job requirements and what the jobs entailed for, social media directors, and it left me cold. I'm like, ooh, I don't I don't feel inspired by that. I don't think a move is gonna, bring about inspiration or material benefit, anything like that. I didn't feel it. So yeah, I really felt lost. I didn't know how to extricate myself from that situation. Thankfully, I married well. My wife, who has over the years worked with career coaches herself, she encouraged me to, find a career coach and speak to a bunch of them, and then find the one that's right for you. And thankfully, that led me ultimately to you, Anne.
Awesome. I think it's really normal when you're feeling lost, go and start to scan jobs on LinkedIn, right? That's kind of the where everyone goes. But I think the challenge with that is that when you approach it that way, it's always about you fitting yourself into a mold that someone else designed, right? Which inherently means you're going to have to shift in some way. Unless you love what you do, right? And you love being a social media manager, but then you're probably not feeling lost, right? So it's often the place people go, but I think what often keeps people stuck because it's not very inspiring to look at job listings. And so how do you feel now, right? How do you feel about what you're doing and where you're directed professionally?
Yeah, I do feel energized in a way that I didn't prior to working with you. And if you look on paper, well, Damien, you're still working for the same agency. What's changed? For me, what has changed is my outlook on the work that I do. I've worked for modeling agencies for over 20 years, and they're unique. people think, oh, that must be like a pretty corporate environment. It really isn't. There's a lot of latitude in terms of at least the relationships I've had with agencies. There's a lot of latitude of what can be done. And, my remit is take care of the social media for the agency across all the territories that the agency is in. And working with you, I came to recognize that the things that I really love to do is making videos with talent and working with creative people. I have a skill set that, yeah, I know how to use a camera, I know how to edit videos, kind of know how to do it all myself, for better or worse. And through conversation with a lot of people, what I came to recognize is that actually I kind of have everything that I need to do in my current role. Do I want to do the current role that I'm in forever? I don't know the answer to that, but I know for now what's right for me is doing, the best I can in the role that I am. So to that end, it's making original videos for the agency with the talent that we represent.
And those videos are so good. You did a whole series during Fashion Week this fall that they're a really authentic look. As someone who's not really embedded in the fashion world at all, really what felt like a really authentic look to what goes on, and a really, just in the way that you capture them too, it just feels very real, like very real life little snippets of moments rather than a long train shot on someone that's perfectly composed. It's, because I think you do everything on the go, and it makes it feel really real. And it also gives a really honest or approachable look into the model themselves, right? I feel like you really get to know the personality of the model, which is really nice. Yeah, I love the films, and they're fun to watch.
Yeah, thank you. I know the many months that we worked together, and in 2021, I mean, I think every week I was mentioning, and when I get back to Europe, and when I get back to Europe to start filming, that was always beyond the horizon for me. Well, this season, I actually got back to Paris for the first time in, 2.5 years. I made a couple films in New York during Fashion Week. These are model diaries. I spend the entire day with a model from her first appointment to her last, and along the way capture all that happens. So I shot a couple episodes in New York, and the reception was phenomenal. I mean, I'm not trying to gas myself up or anything, but it was good. People people really liked it, and I loved it. I mean, I do. I'm not one of those people who, I can't watch my own work. I have no shame in that. I love watching my work. I love just like, I love it. I love it. I get it really excited. And yeah, so it was on the back of that. My colleagues were saying to the owners, like, yeah, Damien has to go to Paris. Like, come on, there's no one better placed to capture our talent in ways that really aren't available if you're relying on photographers and video producers who are working for other organizations. There's no shortage of cameras, there's no shortage of capture during Fashion Week. But my selling point has always been, you get me there, I'll take care of the rest. There's very little you have to worry about. It's just me. I don't have a sound guy, I don't have a producer, I don't have a director, I don't have light, for better or worse, you get me. And what that has enabled me to do is produce the kinds of films that I do, and really get as close as I can to my subject.
Yeah, they're really good, and everyone should check them out. We'll put your handles and contact information in the show notes so people can check them out. I think what I'm curious about is that the moment that you realized what we had talked about is, you really love creating films and working with creative people. And you started to kind of explore what other opportunities outside of your current gig would provide you that. So I'm curious, and I remember the moment, but I'd love to hear it in your own words. That moment where you realized, actually, I can do it here. So how did that happen, and what was that like for you?
the aha moment I had, was the weekly homework, if you will, of talking to people, talking to people, talking to people. And as someone who does it all himself and rarely asks for help, yeah, that was different for me. But it was great. It was like, what? People actually want to talk to me? This is kind of amazing. So it came from conversations that I had. And there was one photographer in particular, Tommy Tan, who's a legendary street photographer. He started shooting in the aughts for style.com, and he's someone who I've been friendly with for many years, and he's seen me in the trenches, if you will, shooting the way that I shoot. So he was definitely someone I identified that, yeah, I should have a conversation with Tommy. And Tommy's insight about me and what it is that I do, and the question I had to him, I was like, I want to keep shooting videos. I want to do it. Yeah, I want to keep shooting in fashion. And Tommy said, well, from what I can tell, you already have the best possible access to talent that you could get. You're in the places where a lot of professional photographers can't even get. He's like, keep doing what you're doing. And eventually, he used the, if you build it, they will come, which, I came to understand that I can keep producing films where I am. And as long as I'm growing as a filmmaker, there's going to be more opportunities for me internally with my company, maybe outside of my company one day. But that was like, oh, wait a minute. Wow. Yeah. That man, like all the lights went. I was like, oh, okay, great. So this energy that I was feeling like, oh, I'm in the wrong job. Well, maybe I'm not in the wrong job. Maybe it's I need to look at the job that I have differently. Yeah, that for me changed it all for me. Because then it said, okay, then this is more of a question of, well, what do I want to do? And it gave me agency that when I first came to you, and I felt I didn't have. And I never would have had that if I wasn't talking to people.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the key. I think so often people feel like they have to have it all figured out before they talk to people, right? They have to know what they want before they go out there and have conversations. But there's only so much you can figure out, in your own head. We all have great brains, right? But they are limited to a certain perspective and way of thinking. And when you go out there and kind of ask people questions and address your fears and concerns about whatever ideas you have, this is how you start to shed light on what actually might be the right path forward for you. So you did a really great job at having lots of conversations, and that's why you had the aha and shifts that you did. I think one of my other questions is, in the process that we worked on together, was there something, either what you felt was the most difficult part of it or the most unexpected? I mean, you might have different answers for that, but whatever strikes your fancy.
I'll start with, historically for me, talking to other people, I would think, oh yeah, that's something that's difficult. But it was just really like, once I started doing it and the response that I got, that strangers would be very happy to talk to me about what it is that I want to do. I was like, what? Like, that just totally, oof. Yeah, that blew my mind. That absolutely blew my mind. The people that I talked to, and like favors that I called in of like photographers that I admire that were like one person, a friend away, and like, those conversations were able to happen. That blew my mind. It never failed to energize me. And where I've taken that, I'm in a place now where, I don't need to have conversations every week with everyone. I don't need to have the conversations that I was having a year ago. But what it's done for me carried into where I am now. Now when I am talking with people who don't know who I am or what it is that I do, like, I can talk about myself and my work in a way that I never felt that before. And I'll give you an example of, like, I have 2 children, so I don't have a huge social life, but on the occasions that my wife and I would get out, and I wasn't ever very expansive about what it is that I do. Well, Damien works at a modeling agency, and that always invites, oh, you work at a modeling agency, and I would always downplay, oh, it's whatever. I've been doing it for many years. The novelty isn't there for me. I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it was never anything that what am I going to talk to people about? Like uploading pictures to Instagram? Like, but working with you and figuring out really how to present myself. Like, no, I'm a video artist. That's the medium that I work in. I do it for a modeling agency. That's what I love to do. And I'm able to, be expansive about it. And like I say, not Homer Simpson into the hedges, when it comes to talking about where are you professionally. I'll talk to you all day about it now.
Yeah, I think that this is kind of getting that clarity for you and then practicing expressing that through the initial networking conversations about kind of this is what I am interested in and I'm trying to find more opportunities to do this, just help you practice owning who you are. And so, yeah, I love that. It's all about being proud about what you do and being able to express that and feel like that is the accurate representation of who you are and what you're about. I think I put this in my prep notes, but the way I talk about this work to people is that to create an energizing career that you love, there's 4 fundamental things you need to focus on and think of them like the foundation of a house, right? You need a sturdy foundation to build a house. Equally, you need a sturdy foundation to build your career. And those 4 areas are your brand, owning who you are, what you're good at, your strengths, your interests, your priorities. 2, your people, right? Talking to people, having conversations, letting them help you. 3, your mindset, how you think about yourself and what's possible for you, making sure that that's as productive as possible. And then 4, your time, how you structure and manage your time so that it serves you and energizes you, and set boundaries on that. So in thinking about your own journey, what part of your foundation do you think was the weakest in starting and what you had to address to kind of create the reality that you have now? And then now going forward, how do you think about each of these areas and how do you keep your foundation strong?
I think understanding my offering, understanding my brand, that was, for me, that seems like the most important. Yeah, because understanding what that is makes me confident when it comes to talking about what it is that I do and what my offering is. And I think from there kind of flows everything else. When I don't have an idea about something, I'm very reactive, and that's one of the strengths that I have is improvising and being reactive. And like, I can do that all day, every day, all the time. What I'm not good at is, planning. So when I am confident about what my offering is, that satisfies, for me anyway, the strategy about what is my direction, what is my MO, and then from there they're tactical choices that I'm making about how do I achieve that. So yeah.
Just to add to that, I think once you know how to trust yourself, once you know who you are and you trust that, then it reduces this need for long-term planning. Because I think a lot of people, they talk about, well, what's my 5-year plan? What's my 10-year plan? And I mean, it's impossible to, I'm always looking with people like 2 years out, right? Let's, max 3 years out. And so when you just trust that you know who you are and what you're about, and you can kind of feel what energizes you, you know that however you evolve, however the situation and life around you evolves, whatever opportunities are presented, you know that you trust you'll follow what feels the most energizing and interesting and aligned. And so it kind of reduces this anxiety of where am I going and allows you to just focus on improvising or creating in the more present moment.
And that's where I feel most energized. Like, I'm not someone who, I do not want to write out my plan for the next 5 years. Like, that doesn't interest me at all.
Yeah.
What I'm energized about is like creating and doing. And I always back myself in any project that I take on, that I'm going to make something awesome. The subject that I'm working with is going to love it. Like, the people around the subject, they're going to like, people like what I produce. So that always gives me confidence. So for me, I know as long as I'm creating, as long as I continue to work with people and work with different people I've never worked with before, like, opportunities are going to arise from that.
Love that. So I think that this has been, I mean, a really nice rehash, I think, of your journey and where you were and where you are now. And it's really, I love following you on Instagram and seeing what you produce. But I think as we wrap up, I'd love to know, what would be a piece of advice or what would you say to other people who are in similar shoes to you, feeling a bit confused or lost as to what comes next?
Yeah, I think for anyone who's feeling lost and uninspired, I mean, what helped me was focusing on the things that I like to do, and really, like, trust my body. This is something I learned from you, and trust what I'm feeling in my body. Do I feel energized about this? Your body doesn't lie in that way. And I remember the conversations that I would have when we were working on, come up with 3 or 4 different career paths, Damien, that, you could think of. And I remember going through that exercise with you. And there were things that I was qualified to do, maybe. But it was like, when it came to like talking about producing videos, like, that's that's where I came alive. So I'd say for anyone who is feeling lost, like, what inspires you? What where do you come alive? What when it comes to the things that you do? If it's planning, great. Like, lean into that. Then planning is for you. Or if whatever it is, if it's teaching people, whatever that is, trust yourself. Trust your body's response to that, because I think that is where you're going to find your future.
Yes. Yes, 110%. That is really, I think, so much of what happens is that people are so used to not trusting their body, or they don't even know how, right? It's about looking outwards as, fitting myself into a mold of a next stage in my career or this title, right? And looking at other people and what they're doing, always looking outwards about what I should be doing instead of trusting what feels good. And sometimes that trust is something unexpected, right? Something that you didn't think you wanted to do. I don't think this was your case, but sometimes it's like, oh, actually, this 10% of my job is the best part of my day. And maybe that's not really where you ever imagined your career going. But that signal from your body, that's the magic, right? That's like the pot of gold. That's the secret sauce, is those signals of what makes me feel energized, what's fun, what's exciting. I think we devalue the importance of fun.
And I tell you, that excitement is infectious. People want that. People want that. And in my industry, no shortage of beautiful people. It's the modeling industry. It's high fashion. And the guys and gals who have that spark, who have that enthusiasm about who they are and where they are in the world, man, people want that. And it's no different whether you're walking down a runway or you're making videos or you're teaching. Like, people want to tap into that.
I totally agree. I think if you just own what energizes you, people are drawn to that. People are drawn to your owning what sparks you, no matter what it is.
100%. 100%.
Love the way you articulated that. And thank you so much for talking to me. I really appreciate this interview for this podcast.
Well, it's an honor, Anne. Thank you for trusting me. on this episode.
Anything else that you wanted to add before we close?
Just, back yourself. Listen for those signs, those cues that are already in you. That can unlock it for you.
Thank you so much, Damien. Really appreciate it. And we'll put your Instagram and contact details in the show notes so people can find and watch your awesome videos.
Thank you so much, Anne.
Okay, take care. Hey, if you're ready to create an energizing career you love, one that is simply an extension of who you are and how you want to live your life, then I want to invite you to schedule a consultation. We'll get to the bottom of what's going on for you and exactly where you need to focus to bring your career and life into alignment. It's free. Just head on over to thecareer.studio/schedule to find a time that works for you. Or if you're enjoying and getting value from these episodes, I'd love you to leave a short review on whatever podcast app you use. This helps other people like you find and get value from the podcast too.